First thing you'll need to do is look up Autodesk Formit. You can so there are two ways of using Formit. You can either download it to your system or you can use it as a web app. So I'm going to launch the web app. So this is how it will download. So this is the work plane of Formit. So the first thing that you'll need to do is register yourself by clicking on this person icon. So I'm sure you'll have your Autodesk student ID, so you could log it from there. So after logging in, I have logged in here. I can start using Formit here. So the first thing that you'll need to do is set the units from here. By default, they are in imperial feet inches. You can change it to metric meters. So the next thing you could do is you could create a geometry in the work plane, or you can import a geometry from outside. So you could import it locally, or you could import it from Autodesk documents. And similarly, you can export your files there as well. So I'm going to start adding a geometry. So I'm going to add a cube. So I'm going to place the cube here. So this is the properties tab. So you could see that I have selected a cube. I could give it certain name. So let's call it building 1. So after selecting the cube, when you click on one of its edge, you'll see the length of the cube. So you could see the length. So you can adjust the length by clicking on the facade and then simply dragging it from the centroid. So say for example it was 3.5 and I want to increase it to say 6 meters, so I'll add 2.5 meters. I'm just typing. I started typing 2.5 meters from my keyboard. If you want to look at so similarly, if you want to increase this dimension, which is again 3.5, and you want to make it, let's say, 5, so click on the centroid and drag it towards the direction where you want to elongate it, and then click on tab from your keyboard and you can increase that length to 1.5. okay, so now you could see that our dimension has become 5 meters and our height has become 6 meters. So now the building is 5 meters by 3.5 meters by 6 meters. So this is how you model a geometry. You can change different, add different elements to your design. You can add a sphere on top, or you could add a pyramid or a cylinder. You could model with this, or if you want to simply draw something, you can use these line options to draw the geometry that you want to create. So you can measure the different dimensions by clicking on the scale icon and then selecting the endpoint. So this is 5 meters, or alternatively you could just select the edge like I do. So the next step is to select the location. You can select the location by clicking on the location icon, and you can just simply write your location. So for example, Jaipur, Rajasthan, and it will by default take up the nearest weather station data. You could select your country from here as well and then look at it further. So from here you could either import the satellite image as your base image, or you could just simply set the location. So I'm just going to simply set location. So now the location has changed to Jaipur, Rajasthan. Okay. So after selecting the location, the simple things that you can do in Formit is to look at the sun part diagram. You could click on the solar icon and then open the sun editor and the shadow angle. So from here you could toggle between the dates which are there. You could see the movement of the sun path, and then from here you could see the movement of the sun for the different times of the day. and the resulting shadows because of it. So similarly, if you want to look at the impacts of one building shadow on another building, let's say for example in row houses, so you could simply copy this unit by right clicking the mouse button. So you could you will have these different options. So for example, I have copy here. There'll be paste here after I copy it. So I've copied this model. I'm right clicking again and I have paste here. So I'm pasting it. So let's say I just want to paste it in the same alignment. Okay. So I have put the next building on the east side of our previous building. So now we could see that the shadows are falling on this building. So we could further look at the impacts of how much for how much duration and how much surface is getting shaded by the by our building 1 on the building 2. So let's for example look at June 21, the summer solstice, and let's start from the morning. So from sunrise you could see that building 2 is shading building 1. So as we continue our sun movement at almost 11, it has stopped shading, and then now these darker surfaces represent that there's no direct sunlight falling on it. So after 12 p.m. The sun is at our overhead. So after that it starts moving towards the shadow moves towards the east side when the sun moves in the west direction. So now you could see that the building 1 has started shading building 2. So and this pattern continues till sunset. So another observation that you can do is look at the solar analysis, which will give you the insolation values, the peak insolation month values for the different surfaces which are there. So for example, let's look at the amount of sunlight that these surfaces are getting for the month of June. So I've selected all the surfaces. You need to select the entire surface to analyze it. So when I click on analyze, you get these you get the solar insolation in watt-hour per square meter, and this is the color index scale which is there. So if you hover your mouse on a particular point, you could read the amount of solar radiation it's getting. So for example, for the south wall, you see that the solar radiation on its surface is in the range of 90 watt-hour per square meter. For west, you have around 540.9 watt-hour per meters square. For north facing, you have 156, and for west facing, east facing, you have 587.9 again. So here you could see that because of the effect of shading, you will find that the observation at the topmost level, where the shading is towards the end of the day, it's 587, which is close to the north, which is the highest in the east face. Then in the center it's slightly lower, it's 472 compared to 500 in the above part, and the lower part, which is shaded for most of the day, it's around 282.4 watt-hour per meter square. So similarly, you could perform this insolation study for different orientations for the different months and look at the results for the different durations. Okay, from here you can also select the year cumulative, which will give you the entire sum of the solar radiation incident on the surface for the entire year, instead of getting it for the different month peaks. So you could again see the pattern of this blurring is because of the mutual shading effect of building of the other building on this building. Similarly, this facade will have a similar effect because of shading by this building. So The next step is to, you could also model shading devices on the different units. So similarly, I'm just going to create a shade. Going to create a, let's say, 1.5 meters long and 1 meter wide shade on the building facade, and this is at a height of 4.6 meters roughly. So now if we look at the, it's created on the east or the, okay, let's just keep it on the south facing side. So now when we analyze this surface for solar analysis, let's do it for the month of June. So the observation here is 90.02 and the observation here is 74.96. This is the effect of shading by the shading device which I have modeled. So Formit is more of a conceptual level design tool where you could implement different ideas and use the different observations for basic modeling.